Hello and welcome to Kosovo for this new edition of Europe District. We'll start our program in Mitrovica, a city which symbolizes Kosovo's ethnic divisions. Kosovo Albanians live on this side of the city, while an estimated 45,000 Serbs live north of the Ibar River. Between them stands a bridge which has long been a flashpoint in Kosovo. More than 3 years after Kosovo's declaration of independence, ethnic Serbs still refuse to recognize Pristina's central institutions. They're largely helped and financed by Serbia, and on September 14th, Serbs dumped piles of gravel on the bridge to block access to northern Kosovo. This followed a decision by Hashim Thaçi, Kosovo's Prime Minister, to take over control of the last two border crossings with Serbia, which were still beyond his authority. In this program, we'll bring you our latest reports on the recent crisis here in Kosovo. We'll also show you that against all the odds, some people here are trying to rebuild bridges. And last but not least, we'll travel to Pristina, the capital of Kosovo. It's a very chaotic and yet very vibrant city. We'll meet our guide. She'll show us some of her favorite places. But we'll start here in Mitrovica with the latest on the recent crisis which has alarmed the international community. Our reporter, Valérie Labonne, has got more on the story.
On the 25th of July in northern Kosovo, on the border with Serbia, the Jerinja crossing went up in flames. Kosovo Serbs set it on fire to protest the deployment of ethnic Albanian policemen after Pristina decided to retaliate against Serbia's ongoing 3-year economic blockade.
Kosovo's government on 20th of July has introduced reciprocity measures against the importation of goods from Serbia. Because for the last 3 years, Serbian government didn't let any goods originated in Kosovo to be imported, in this case exported from Kosovo to Serbia, or even to transit through Serbia to the third countries, which made a lot of damages for our economy or domestic producers.
Serbia, which continues to regard Kosovo as part of its territory, refuses to recognize Kosovo as a sovereign state. And since the independence in 2008, the 45,000 Serbs living in northern Kosovo have strongly opposed the new central institutions. Their enclave has entirely relied upon Belgrade's economic and political support.
Right now, the international community refuses to accept the reality of the situation on the ground. The Serbs who stayed in northern Kosovo reject Albanian institutions.
But Pristina wants to assert the territorial integrity of Kosovo and enforce its authority over the Serb enclave. Fed up with the status quo, Prime Minister Hashim Thaçi decided to intervene, putting the international community in front of a fait accompli.
It came as a total surprise, since there'd been no consultation with international authorities, including KFOR. It was the government's unilateral decision to send these policemen to both Gate 1 and Dock 31 administrative posts.
NATO troops from KFOR and EU law enforcement officers from ULEX eventually agreed to fly the Kosovan policemen to the border. But since then, these foreign forces have found themselves in charge of security around the two border crossings in what is now a limited military zone. And so far, the Albanian customs officers have in fact only played a symbolic role.
It is main problem lack of rule of law. On MIC and later on in OLEX, they didn't fulfill their mandate to put rule of law in place. And it is this rule of law belongs mostly to some criminals and bands, which they take a lot of profit by smuggling of oil, drugs and many other issues.
In northern Kosovo, the Serbs feel betrayed by the international community they accuse of siding with the Albanian majority.
We will continue to fight democratically and sacrifice ourselves if we have to. But we won't cave in, even if it means paying with our lives.
Since last July, tensions have mounted in northern Kosovo. Ironically, the situation got worse after Belgrade and Pristina seemed to reach an agreement on customs. In Brussels at the beginning of September, negotiators agreed to put an end to the economic embargo, the Serbian side allowing Kosovo to use its own customs stamps and accepting the deployment of customs officers. But back in Belgrade, authorities swiftly rejected the agreement.
Seriously endanger peace and stability of the whole region. That solution has not been agreed between Belgrade and Pristina. This must be prevented.
In the meantime, ULEX has decided to promote further negotiations, but insists the agreement on free circulation of goods has to be enforced.
The object is to improve living conditions, and there's no better way to do this than to ease the free circulation of goods and the free movement of individuals. I also want to stress that's a principle that Europe promotes and develops.
KFOR has strengthened its military capacities to prevent further unrest, and EU emissaries have been working hard to ease tensions. But this did not prevent violent clashes from erupting at the border between Serbs and KFOR troops. More than half a dozen were injured.
Well, for more on the story, I'm now joined by Edita Tahiri. She's the Vice Prime Minister of Kosovo. She's also the chief negotiator in the EU-sponsored dialogue between Pristina and Belgrade. Mrs. Tahiri, thank you for having us. We've seen it in our report. The situation remains very tense on the border between Serbia and Kosovo. Now, of course, your aim was to reaffirm the territorial integrity of Kosovo, but wasn't it a risky move? As we know, there is a dialogue at the moment between Belgrade and Pristina.
Well, as it is known, on the September 2nd, we have agreed with Serbia to pursue the free trade, and there was a recognition of customs stamps between the two states, so it had to follow with the implementation plan. It was necessary also to return the authority over the crossing borders in the north, in the gates 1 and 31, who have been unfortunately facing porosity for a very long time. We consider that it was too much tolerance of Serbia meddling into the Kosovo's internal affairs. This has happened since the end of the war in 1999, when UNMIK was administering the country, but unfortunately UNMIK failed in governing all territory and people. Somehow it left 1/3 of the territory, mainly in the northern part of Kosovo, ungoverned, and allowed the space for ex-occupier to build some parallel structures, which today show to be mafia structures. And we want to not only strengthen the rule of law, but we want to ensure that all citizens in that part, including the part of Serbs who live there, to live in safety and in well-being.
Aren't you afraid, though, that this could lead to a stalemate in the region?
Well, first I would like to say that this implementation plan is well coordinated with international partners. Here we have KFOR and ULEX in joint operation with Kosovo government in taking authority and control in the northern border. Serbia is responsible for the genocide in this country in the years 1990 until 1999. Then it's responsible for interfering into the Kosovo affairs after international administration since 1999. And we believe that dialogue in Brussels serves this goal, to make Serbia withdraw from illegal meddling in Kosovo's affairs, and also make Serbia start to contribute for good neighborly relations and for the regional stability.
In December last year, the Swiss Senator Dick Marty published a report for the Council of Europe linking your Prime Minister, Hashim Thaçi, to an organ trafficking ring in the late 1990s that was at the end of the war in Kosovo. ULEX, the European civilian mission here in Kosovo, has said it will open an investigation. Are you ready to fully cooperate?
This kind of accusations and investigations have been also initiated by Hague Tribunal, but as you know, there were no grounds and they were in fact cancelled. This recycling of accusations by Dick Marty, I think that are politically motivated, but anyway, we as government didn't enter speculation. We just said that we are ready to cooperate with institutional justice institutions, but we want to see professional, fair and grounded reports.
Edita Tahiri, thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is North Mitrovica, the Serb side of this divided city. This new Orthodox church was built by the Serbs after the war. Now, some NGOs here are trying to reconnect both communities. The Mitrovica Rock School teaches music to ethnic Albanians and Serbs, but there's still a long way to go. These young musicians are only separated by a small bridge. But if they want to meet, to play together, well, they have to travel abroad.
It's become one of their favorite videos. These three musicians are part of the six-member band Architects, all students at the Mitrovica Rock School. But although they were on stage together last summer in Macedonia, half of them live in North Mitrovica, the Serb side of this divided city. Working conditions are hard, but they're all looking forward to recording their first single.
We are now recording a demo idea for the third song, and after we finished we will send to the guys to the south to hear it and record their part.
Without the internet, this mixed band would not exist. The other three band members are Kosovo Albanians, and they live on the other side of the bridge in the southern part of the city. It's only 100 meters away, and yet it's impossible for them to cross the river. The Dutch NGO Musicians Without Borders tried to convince both communities to build a school together, but the political situation made it impossible.
People are just afraid of what will happen if they cross, after they cross. What do people say? Why were you on the other side? You know, are you collaborating, or, you know,
Despite them living very close to each other, online social networks are their only means of communicating. Both Serb and Albanian musicians met for the first time a couple of years ago at a summer camp in Skopje in Macedonia. A good opportunity for them to brush prejudice and mental barriers aside.
On TV they're like extremists, you know, we're gonna kill you, we're gonna, I don't know. But in the real world it's a very good person.
During their stay, they discovered they shared a common passion for music. This helped them take their mind off the tension of daily life in Mitrovica. After crossing the bridge, we met Blurter, who lives on the south bank of the river Ibar. She's the band's lead singer and has just received the demo from her Serb friends. The three best students on each side have been chosen to produce an album. They found music was a universal language they could all speak.
The band somehow understands the kind of sound that they're trying to make, and they've agreed upon a sound without even talking about it very much, and they're really making it happen. So it just kind of, it is chemistry, so you just encourage it that they do it.
And they're off to a promising start with 3 upbeat pop rock songs in English that should get them to travel abroad. The whole gang is about to fly to the Netherlands, where they are to meet with professional music producers and record a new song. For Lenart, this proves music does help bridge gaps between communities.
If you want to see if our friendship is good, you have to hear our music. And our music is really good, in really good harmony and stuff. So that's what makes us good friends and stuff.
And they're planning on staying friends for a long time. The Architects are ambitious, they dream of a long and fruitful career. Next March, they'll release the first of what they hope will be a long series of records.
We've travelled to Pristina, the capital of Kosovo. This is Mother Teresa Street, the main commercial street in the city. Serbia imposed an economic embargo on Kosovo following its declaration of independence. Ever since, Kosovo's economy has relied heavily on the large international presence here in Pristina and on money from the thriving Kosovar diaspora spread across Europe. But does Kosovo have an economic future? Valérie Labonne finds out for us.
Kosovo is one of the poorest nations in Europe. Unemployment is very high, more than 40%. Already lagging behind its Balkan neighbors in communist Yugoslavia, the '99 war against Serbia ruined its economy. Today, Kosovo imports 85% of its consumer goods and raw material.
So at the border we are collecting VAT, and as well we are collecting custom taxes. Together, VAT and custom taxes are almost 70% of the budget.
International aid amounts to 10% of GDP, and the 10,000 foreigners working across this small territory help create jobs and fuel consumption. Enver and his wife work for a French K4 contractor. Trained as a farm technician, he's become a handyman. His wife is a cleaner. Both enjoy a high level of job security, unlike many Kosovans.
One day you go to work, the next day you return to work and your boss tells you, sorry, but there's no work left for you.
Working the same job at a local business would earn them €200 less, a considerable amount considering the average wage in Kosovo stands at €250. In search of a better life, many have chosen to work abroad. According to some estimates, the money the diaspora sends back to Kosovo totals a third of GDP. Gen's father, an architect, moved to Georgia in order to pay for his son's education.
We kind of made the decision together. I mean, if we wanted certain things in life, like education costs a lot.
But to stop the brain drain and bolster consumption, authorities recently raised the salaries of the state's 70,000 civil servants. And to upgrade Kosovo's ailing infrastructure, the government turned to foreign investors, although it proved difficult to convince them.
There are what we call institutional barriers, basically corruption, informal economy, and unfair competition, which comes as a direct consequence of informality and tax evasion, low level of judiciary, and also access to finance, which is very, very expensive for businesses.
Kosovo uses the euro as its currency, but it isn't enough to reassure investors. Only a deep reform of the business sector will have foreign companies see Kosovo as a viable business destination.
Well, that's the end of the first part of Europe District, but we'll return after the news break in about 10 minutes, so please stay with us on France 24.